Hello everyone, this is Tetrafolium, and I'm here to talk about an actually good Pokemon for once. I mean, that's not true. A lot of the Pokemon that I talk about are pretty good, but this is probably one of the better ones I've talked about so far. This is Charizard, and I'm calling this Playing with Fire in ADV because this thing is so fun, but it's also so dangerous because you have to hit your Fire Blasts. Let's see the viability rankings, and we don't even have to delve into the E rank for this one. Charizard is, I guess, high C tier, just below Snorlax Starmie. That's actually pretty good. Um, and 17th overall is nothing to sneeze at. I mean, there was a time when Charizard wasn't even considered an OU ranked Pokemon. It being an OU is a fairly recent development, so it's cool to see that it's taken over some like mainstays of the tier like Flygon and Milotic and Gyarados. So yeah, that's really cool. Um, Going on, why would you want to use something like Charizard in this metagame? Well, I'm gonna make a case for fire types just in general, and then obviously Charizard being one of the better of them, we will make the case for that later. Um, but the idea is that Steel is one of the best defensive types in the format. There are a lot of really good Steel type Pokemon. In fact, as about 30% of people who responded to my poll said they think Skarmory is the best Pokemon in this format, which I think is a defensible take. Um, I'm definitely not going to say that there's anything wrong with that. Um, Although I think personally I kind of prefer Tyranitar. Um, It's kind of a matter of preference, though. At that point, they're both fantastic. In any case, there are also Metagross, Jirachi, and Magneton as Steel types in this tier, and then a handful of other Pokemon that get used on occasion, like Registeel and Steelix, and Fortress. Of course, how could I forget Fortress? But Steel is only weak to ground, fighting, and fire. Of these, fire's the only one that's special attacking, which is important to note because most of the steel types have much better physical defense than special defense, the exception being Jirachi, who's even across the board, and I guess as well Registeel, but I digress. That's important to note, but the dual types of the steel types make it difficult for these two of these three to land on some of the steel types. So the first one is Skarmory and Fortress. They're both not weak to ground or fighting. Skarmory's dual flying type gives it immunity to ground and would resist fighting, but you know, when you have a weakness and a resistance, it balances out to neutral. And then Bug, surprisingly for some people, not realizing how good a defensive type Bug can be in certain situations. Bug resists ground and fighting, so that is really good for Fortress. Then we have a pair of Pokemon here, both with the Steel Psychic type, who are not weak to fighting, are weak to ground, and are weak to fire. And then, of course, Magneton has no resistances whatsoever. I mean, yeah, I guess it resists the Volt Beam combo, but like, that's more of a footnote than anything. But what you'll notice here, as I've sort of alluded to already, is that all of them are weak to fire. So yeah, you do not have to worry about your fire type not being able to handle a steel type very well. I mean, granted, unless the fire type is really bad special attack, but most of the ones that are usable in this format have pretty dang good special attack. Let's take a look at Charizard's stats and see how pretty dang good it is. 109, that's not like to the moon like your Tyranitars and your Metagross with their 134, 135. Salamence as well, 135. Not quite at the Moltres and Zapdos level of 125 for the special attack, or Gengar's 130, but you're still in the upper echelon here. You're going to be stronger than things like Starmie and Flygon with its physical attack. Who else is a special attacker? I believe you also get past Suicune. Yeah, I think Suicune's like, what, base 90? Let me check this before somebody has to correct me in the comments for being wrong yet again. Yeah, base 90. Okay, I'm pretty good with these numbers here, guys. I'm just saying. But the attack stat is also not bad. 84, that's decent, especially if you can boost it. And Charizard gets access to Belly Drum, which is a fantastic move for boosting your attack stat. In fact, it boosts it all the way up. You also have Swords Dance if you need that as well, if you're not as based. But no, that's actually not bad. Do not get Dragon Dance, unfortunately, but we can make do without it. The bulk is okay. 78, 78, 85 is a decent split. It's good enough to survive some not super duper strong neutral hits, as well as tanking resistant hits pretty well. Charizard's fire and flying type shared only with Moltres gives it an immunity to burn and ground type moves or spikes, which is the important thing, really. Well, no, ground immunity is really good for a fire type as well. And yeah, I mean, really the key here is the speed and the special attack, though. That is like what you would like to use Charizard for, in my opinion. I guess unless you really, really want a Belly Drum, but because it is pretty good at doing that. But the special attack speed split is really what I'm looking at. I compare it to other Pokemon with the same speed stat, the base 100. It's a really important speed stat, which we will be talking about shortly. Of all the Pokemon with base 100 speed in OU, Charizard is only behind Zapdos and Salamence in terms of special attack. So, yeah, if you think that Special Mence hits pretty hard, then Charizard is that, but it has a stronger stab move, so keep that in mind. How good is this special attack actually, though? With a plus special attack nature, Fire Blast OHKOs every single OU ranked steel type except for defensive Jirachi. And even defensive Jirachi, who opts to spec more into its defense than its special defense, could still get KO'd, depending on how much it goes into its defense rather than special defense. But yeah, your Metagrosses, your Skarmories, your Fortress, they're all completely done in, and then most Jirachi sets as well. So that's really cool. Now let's take a look at the base 100s, which is any Pokemon that has base of 100 in their speed stat. It's really important to know who all these Pokemon are and how to game plan around them in a game, because speed is arguably the most important stat. I also have every Pokemon that is higher than base 100 off to the right side here, both the OU and the UUBL ranked, and I think you'll be kind of surprised at how scarce this list is, and also who some of the faces are. Typhlosion and Miltank kind of jump out to me as very strange for 100 base speed. I guess I'll get it out of the way because somebody's going to mention it. Typhlosion actually has the exact same base stats as Charizard. Now, I'm not going to get into too much of a discussion why Charizard is like strictly better than Typhlosion. It mostly has to do with its ground/spikes immunity, but yeah, let's look more in depth at the OU ranked base 100s and see how they compare to each other, or rather what they can do to each other. So I have a graphic here that will show you each of the 6 base 100s best move to hit the other of the Pokemon here. And yes, I included them hitting themselves because, you know, we're not in a draft format. Anybody could use any Pokemon on the ladder. So, yeah, of these, I want to make a note that some of these moves are not as strong as you might think into each other. For example, HP Fire Celebi on Celebi, depending on the Celebi sets, may not even be a 2-hit KO. So, like, it's not fantastic. Also, you'll notice, like, Celebi, for example, it has to rely on hidden power coverage to hit pretty much everything. The only Pokemon that it does not require hidden power to hit super effective is Charizard with Ancient Power. Although I will say that Ancient Power Celebi is a bit gimmicky. It's not completely. There's a reason to use it, and even more so than fishing for the Omni boost, but it's not a super duper strong move, even on SD Pass Celebi. But Charizard gets some really nice moves to hit all of these Pokemon. Fire Blast into Celebi and Jirachi is really strong. You have the option for HP Ice to deal with the dragons, who are both ×4 weak to HP Ice, but you can opt for Dragon Claw instead, which should 2-hit KO pretty much all of their sets, maybe not quite Defensive Flygon, but yeah, that's really good, especially if you choose to have a speed stat that's higher than them, which is nice. We can talk about how feasible that is because, of course, all of these Pokemon speed tie each other, but some of them are incentivized to do different things with their particular builds. Zapdos we can hit with Rock Slide or HP Ice, kind of depends on whether we're a physical or a special leaning Charizard, but even then, Fire Blast should do a lot of damage to Zapdos. Probably ends up being more than HP Ice, to be honest, so yeah, you could keep that in mind, but also keep in mind that Fire Blast has a chance to miss, a pretty sizable one, so I think that Flygon's got the most straightforward matchups into all of these. You have HP Bug for Celebi, Rock Slide for the flying types, and then Earthquake for Jirachi. Again, hitting itself, honestly, Flygon's best move is usually Toxic, but it does get Dragon Claw, and you might be able to handle an offensive Flygon with your own Flygon's Dragon Claw, but it's not a fantastic move, so I wouldn't necessarily recommend it too highly. Jirachi is pretty notable in that it's the only Pokemon that does not have to commit to a hidden power to hit all of the enemies, which is really nice. Ice, Fire, Electric coverage is not super duper common, especially not on Jirachi, but you could in theory run that coverage to hit all of the other base 100s. In that case, you might want to be like Calm Mind with max attack, or sorry, max speed. Get a +1 Calm Mind boost, and then hopefully you outspeed or speed tie the rest of these Pokemon, and then get your one-hit KOs. Although you might not be able to one-hit KO every single one of them. Probably not Zapdos, for example. And also probably not opposing Jirachi. And maybe not even Celebi. So actually, probably half of them you're not going to one-hit KO. So keep that in mind. Salamence has some pretty interesting coverage as well. Dragon Claw is quite nice into the opposing dragon types. Earthquake and Rock Slide that's pretty straightforward. Same thing that Flygon would like to do. Although you don't have Stab on either of them, whereas Flygon has Stab on Earthquake, so that's notable. And then HP Flying for Celebi. You could also have Fire Blast if you're going for a special set, but Fire Blast does not do a ton of damage to Celebi, whereas with the Stab boost, and more particularly the higher base attack stat, Salamence can make up more ground against Celebi. And then Zapdos is a little bit limited on its coverage. Really, it just has Thunderbolt and HP Ice. You could use Drill Peck as an option to hit Celebi, who's not expecting it. That can be nice against the Calm Mind Celebi variants. And then Thunderbolt, yeah, it's not a great move to hit Jirachi, especially the defensive ones with Calm Mind. They will just Calm Mind boost past, and then if it has Wish, that's even worse for you. So it's not fantastic. And then against opposing Zapdos, it really depends on what the Zapdoses are. But if it's offensive on offensive, you'll 2-hit KO. So that's pretty cool. HP Ice does about the same to Zapdos, but Thunderbolt is preferred because you could get the para. So yeah, that is basically how it goes. The conclusion that we kind of draw here is that most of these Pokemon have the ability to hit each other for a lot of damage with the right coverage moves. So it kind of comes down to how fast are you willing to go, or how much bulk do you need to handle the other base 100s. I think speed is probably the most easy to talk about, so let's take a look at that. So I went through all of the common movesets that you would find in the calculator to sort of show you what speed investment each of the base 100s is using in this tier. So with Celebi, who has a lot of different sets, we see that it has a wide variety of speed stats. You're going to see some that pop up a lot, like 270 and 244 and 280, and I'll try to explain some of those as I go, but if I miss some, like, you know, sue me. But we see that the slower Celebi sets are going like 241, 244. 241 specifically is to outspeed max speed Swampert, as well as any of the base 70s who have a speed neutral nature, so like Adamant or Modest. That's important because you would like to threaten each of these Pokemon with a Psychic or an HP Grass if you have it. I think the defensive CM set is running 2 attacks, Calm Mind and Recover. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I think that's what it does, so that makes sense. 244, which is what I think most Celebi should be running anyway. You might want to increase your defensive CM a little bit, especially if you're going to run a Grass move, because that's going to outspeed a max speed Tyranitar. And then utility is, I mean, we've all seen it, 2 attacks, Leech Seed, Recover. Generally speaking, that's what it is. There's SD plus Baton Pass, Swords Dance plus Baton Pass, I should say. That goes to 271, just a little bit faster than Suicune and Heracross with neutral natures. 280 is for neutral, or like the Modest Moltres, Leech 3 attacks. It's a really good set. BKC has a lot to say about that one. And then 308 is to speed creep max speed Moltres. There is also a Gengar set that chills at 380, or sorry, 308. I wish it was 380. And for the same reason. So you could opt to do one more speed with this particular set, but like the offensive and Calm Mind Baton Pass variants do like to have a lot of speed. So they're quite nice. Zapdos is kind of like low, middle, high here. The rest runs basically no investment. The 4 is just to outspeed other base 100s that have 0 speed. I do recommend for rest Zapdos, depending on what moves you have, that you try to do 240 or 241. If you have HP Grass, 241 is great because you'll outspeed Swampert. But 240 is still good because it outspeeds Magneton, and Zapdos generally likes to get the first hit off on Magneton rather than vice versa, because you could. It's better for timing your rest, and you have a greater chance to get. You have a slightly greater chance of getting para to do something for you. What I mean by that is if you on the first turn you could hit the 10% paralysis chance and then get the full para if you're faster. Whereas if you're slower, you can't stop the opponent's first attack from going off. So that's kind of where that comes in. It's a it's a little bit much. You don't have to do all that, but generally that's one of the optimizations I'll make on a ref Zapdos. This is supposed to be a video about Charizard, by the way. But no, I'm going to continue to yap. 270, as I've explained, that's for Suicune and Heracross. The Agility BP and Mixed sets will do this. Mixed is primarily trying to hit Celebi with Drill Peck, so that kind of explains why 270 is reasonable for Zapdos. It also will help with Drill Peck on Max Speed, Breloom, and Adamant Heracross. But a lot of Celebi sets don't quite run 270, and that might explain why the SD Baton Pass set runs one more speed than that. So you can get a Swords Dance and go for Hidden Power Rock or Ancient Power into the Zapdos before it starts going for Drill Pecks on you. And then there's Offensive Zapdos, which hits max speed. Many of these max speed Pokemon can opt to run a attack or special attack boosting nature instead. Flygon could do that, Jirachi could do that, Zapdos could do that. You'll see that those are the three that have the max speed sets. But there is also a lot of value in going for max speed, just so that you outspeed a lot of nasty things like max speed Moltres and at least speed tie the rest of the base 100s. Salamence, Wish is not a set that you see a standard set for in OU, at least not on Smogon's sometimes inconsistent pages for these Pokemon. But Salamence can kind of run anything from 0 to 32 speed for the Wish set. It depends on what coverage you have. If you have Brick Break, you're incentivized to be faster than Tyranitar. If you don't have Brick Break, you could probably get away with being a little slower. I would say same thing for Salamence. You probably want to be faster than Modest Magneton. So 240 is about where you should go. But if you're at 240, you could also just do 241 to outspeed Swampert. Kind of depends on what you're doing with the rest of your EVs. In any case, mixed Salamence and Choice Band Salamence tend to go to max speed with an attack or a special attack boosting nature. And then Dragon Dance tends to go to 270. Same reason, outspeeding Heracross. Although I tend to like to go to 274 or 275 with Dragon Dance to outspeed Smeargle as well. But that's kind of just a personal preference for me. Jirachi can go the slowest of pretty much any of them. Its defensive set has a minus speed nature because you don't want to reduce your defenses, obviously, and you would like to still get the extra damage off from Body Slam and Fire Punch. And Jirachi doesn't really need the speed to outspeed anything in particular. It outspeeds most of the things that it would want to anyway, including most Metagross sets. But if you opt to run Toxic over Body Slam, you can instead run a minus attack nature, and you would get back up to 236 speed, which is still pretty much slower than all the other base 100s, because the rest of them run at least a little bit of speed. Wish CM wants to be faster than Tyranitar, which makes sense. If you get enough CM boosts, then Thunder can KO, or 2-hit KO Tyranitar, so you would like to not get 2-hit KO'd back by being slower. 270 for Sub CM and Mixed. I think these sets tend to run Psychic, so that makes sense. Faster than Heracross and has a super effective stab Psychic. And then Super Rachi goes to max. Super Rachi is Calm Mind 3 attacks. can be many assortments. It could be bolt beam fire coverage. It could be sci-fire grass coverage. Lots of ways you could go with that. So it's kind of cool. Particularly good with if you have Ice Punch for Salamence and Flygon, which you might outspeed, but also just generally good with the Sci-Fire coverage as well. Flygon will either be faster than Tyranitar or basically max speed. I kind of liked the 299 speed Flygon, or even possibly 280, which is, like I said with Celebi, outspeeding Moltres. That, to me, works really well with the Flygon because I like the adamant nature. But you can kind of go either way for that. But of course you want to be faster than Tyranitar so you can get an Earthquake off on it before it can do anything to you. And then Charizard here has some very weird speed tiers, but we're finally here talking about the featured Pokemon, right? 265 is 2 points faster than the base 70s with a plus speed nature, so that would be faster than Breloom, whatever the fastest Magneton is. Metagross and Skarmory kind of don't really go that fast. I mean, Skarmory I guess could, but then it's Yellow Skarm, and Charizard is going to snack on Yellow Skarm. I mean, as if it doesn't snack on all the rest of them, but yeah, the physical attacker, I guess that's where it's going here. Although I don't know if you're running any sort of flying coverage on a physical Charizard, if it's like HP flying or aerial ace, you should probably be faster than an adamant Heracross, so 270, which is where a lot of the other Charizard sets are going. Physical attacker might not opt to run flying coverage. We'll see later. As you can tell, I'm not very familiar with that set. I don't tend to use a standard physical attacker Charizard that much. But yeah, most of the other ones are at 270, and then the special attacker set wants to get up to 297. This would be outspeeding a Jolly Heracross, which I mean, they exist for sure, and it's nice to outspeed it and not have Rock Slide KO you. I just noticed that I put a plus next to the 244. Actually, that is not a plus speed nature for Charizard. It's just 244, and then presumably with plus special attack for the special attacker set. So disregard that little plus sign. Charizard could opt to run 299 as well. I think it generally for the special attacker, it tends to use Focus Punch as a move to hit Blissey, and you want to steal a little bit of EVs to get your Focus Punch to get a certain roll against Blissey. So they steal a little bit from the speed there, which explains why it's not 299. In any case, we'll go on to the standard Charizard sets. So you're going to notice that there are a lot of physical Charizards and only one special Charizard, and a lot of them are saying, yeah, use Belly Drum. But I mean, it's quite strange. But the first is this recoil attacker with Belly Drum Double Edge. I feel like that's an anti-synergy. I wonder if you absolutely need Double Edge, or if you could get away with using Return, but or just some other move like Hidden Power Flying, for example. But all right, I mean, I guess you can use Belly Drum to lower yourself to 50%, and then Double Edge maybe recoils you into Salak range. I could see that as a potential, but to me this set seems a little bit like matchup fishy. I don't know if you will get a lot of use out of it generally, but I mean, because I don't see it very often, it might be an interesting surprise set. A lot of these physical attacking sets will still run Fire Blast, or potentially Overheat or Flamethrower. The reason why is so that you can still hit all the steel types. Earthquake is pretty good at hitting some of the steel types, but not all of them. So you do like to have Fire Blast to threaten kill on Skarmory, for example. The Belly Drum 3 attack set also runs Fire Blast, wouldn't you know it? And then you have Earthquake and Rock Slide. Generally, the Edge Quake is going to hit almost everything. But you could opt to run Hidden Power Flying, which helps you to hit Claydol and Flygon a little better. It'll also do a lot more damage to, say, like a defensive Celebi, which may live a +6 Rock Slide from Charizard. I'm not sure. I can take a look at that real quick. So we're at +6, and here comes the utility Celebi. You just got a lot of defense investment, and Rock Slide. Yeah, Rock Slide still only does 53 minimum. Wow, that is insane. Celebi's fat. I mean, in any case, HP Flying would get the OHKO there, whereas Rock Slide is only 50% likely. So, yeah, it checks out. We have some more Belly Drum and even a Swords Dance set here. Substitute Belly Drum is probably the one that we are most familiar with, at least when you see Belly Drum sets. The idea is that Charizard, if it can get behind a substitute that reduces 25% of its HP, Belly Drums reduces 50% of its HP, then it goes down to 25% so it can proc the Salac Berry. You'll also be in Blaze range, which is why you see a lot of Salac Berries on these Belly Drum sets, by the way. Because you're reducing yourself down, and then you are getting into Blaze range, and then you have the plus speed and the +6 attack, so you threaten a lot. But yeah, the last move, it really depends on what you're trying to hit. HP Flying is just a really good neutral option because it's got stab. So is Earthquake. You'll still hit most things, and then Return is another just neutral option that is good into most things, once again. So good synergy with Fire Blast as well, because Fire Blast will remove the steel types, but watch out for the rock types. That's going to be the kicker. Physical Attacker, which is just a... Oh, it does get Dragon Dance this generation. Okay, somebody probably already corrected me in the comments section, but hey, I just learned something here, even though I literally put the slide together. As you can tell, I don't read the moves that closely, especially for the ones that I don't generally use myself. But yeah, I guess you do have Dragon Dance, so that's pretty cool. But you have Swords Dance, which is probably even cooler. You'll get Aerial Ace and HP Flying, which is really nice for hitting the fighting types, as well as Celebi. Let me check this. This is the set that's running slower, right? Yeah, I would probably run up to 270 so you can outspeed Heracross as well. I feel like if you have the stab ×4 super effective move, like, you might as well go for it against the Heracross, because Fire Blast with no investment is, I don't think, gonna kill a Heracross. We can check that out in the calculator. You might actually. It's a pretty decent roll if the Heracross has no HP investment, so it's kind of interesting. But Aerial Ace is a guaranteed kill, so yeah, I think you could stomach to run a little bit faster. And then you have HP Grass as a potential for Swampert. The Rock Slide, Earthquake, obviously, like, you know, those hit. And Fire Blast is, again, basically a must for Charizard. Speaking of Fire Blast, let's take a look at the only special Charizard set that Smogon has for some reason. And it's got the strongest Fire Blast of all these sets, of course, because we have the special attack investment. The 24 attack and avoiding a minus attack nature by opting for Rash or Mild is to allow Focus Punch to get a 2-hit KO on most Blissey sets. That's... I mean, it's kind of a question of how much do you need Charizard to be the Blissey answer? And it doesn't have to be the primary Blissey answer with Focus Punch. It can just like click it and hit the Blissey, get it low so that you force it to recover while you switch to something that better deals with Blissey, like a Metagross. Definitely an option for consideration there. Generally, these special attacker sets are running Substitute nowadays. Sunny Day is not super duper common, but it can work with weather clear strategies or teams that appreciate having the Sunny Day, like something with like a Suicune and a Snorlax on it. Though Substitute is much more common. Hidden Power Grass versus Ice is depending on whether you want to hit Swampert or Salamence. This is a major consideration for Charizard because its stab does not hit Salamence for neutral damage, unlike the electric types who have this dilemma. So there is a lot of value in HP Ice, and then there's of course Fire Blast, which is like a no-brainer. The reason why we tend to see a lot more Fire Blast on Charizard than Flamethrower is it needs that little bit of extra damage to beat Skarmory. I believe that this special attack investment here is basically the bare minimum to kill a standard Skarm, which is running the max special defense investment it possibly can. So yeah, we're not going to quite get there with Flamethrower. That's why Fire Blast is preferred. And then, yeah, Focus Punch obviously for Blissey. But I think that this, there's some problems here. Let's read what the writer has to say about this. While this set has some surprise value, it is largely inferior to the Belly Drum ones. Substitute has two functions. Firstly, it reduces the prediction needed to use Focus Punch, and secondly, it lets Charizard activate Pataya Berry, which is a plus special attack boosting berry. Works just like Salac and Lychee, if you're familiar with those. After boosts from Pataya Berry, Blaze, and Sunny Day, Charizard's Fire Blast is extremely strong and does a lot to anything that's not named Blissey or Snorlax. Yeah, I mean, that's true. And definitely something to consider if you're going to use Sunny Day. It's kind of nice, actually, that Charizard has a Pinch Berry and can clear weather for itself. There are not too many Pokemon that can do both effectively in the same set, but Charizard can kind of do this. So I don't know. Again, I don't tend to use Sunny Day, but I could see the merit in it. And then an attack stat of 225 is needed to let Focus Punch always 2-hit KO Blissey, which is, I believe, what the defense or the attack investment is getting you to hit. If using a hidden power that reduces attack, for example, Hidden Power Grass, move some special attack EVs to attack to make up for it. And that's something that's important to note. The default Hidden Power Grass set generally puts you at 2 attack EVs because it assumes that most Hidden Power Grass users are going to be special attackers. But if you want your Focus Punch to do a lot of damage to the Blissey, you need to make sure that you have a Hidden Power Grass that preserves your attack IVs as well. I don't think Hidden Power Grass ever can allow you to have 31, but it can definitely allow you to have 30. So do the one that maximizes that, and then readjust your EVs as needed. Unless you're going to do a no attack investment Focus Punch, which that happens, but you run the risk of not even, like we say here, not even 2-hit KOing Blissey, so I don't know how much I would recommend that. there's kind of another option if you want to still hit Blissey. I think there are a lot of alternative options that you could use on a special attacking Charizard set, and I think that whoever wrote this was way underselling the value of the special attacking Charizard. And I believe I've heard that. I've heard that they're going to do some rewriting on the Charizard page to be more in tune with the modern metagame. And Charizard is definitely a Pokemon that is now more prized as its special attacking role than it is for like the belly drum stuff that it does. I think if you watch most tournament games, you're gonna see a special attacking Charizard because that plus special attack nature Fire Blast is phenomenal. But let's see if we can flesh this out a little more. Dragon Claw is an option, as we saw from that previous graphic, however many slides ago, for 2-hit KOing Salamence and Flygon, which allows you to preserve your hidden power so that you can have a hidden power Grass to hit Swampert. It's kind of nice that Charizard can almost have its cake and eat it too. Now, HP Ice oftentimes gets the one-shot kill on the dragons. Salamence in particular will fold to it. Unless it's running the Dragon Dance set, then it's, I believe, a 50-50 roll. So that's unfortunate because that's the only one that you naturally outspeed. Although you could run a Modest Nature maybe and get past that. So actually, you might be okay. In any case, I do think that Dragon Claw is a neat option for covering two otherwise kind of difficult to hit Pokemon who are both fire resist, so it can be nice. And then especially if you're going to run a lot more speed investment, then you can definitely justify this. Catch them coming in, and then if you're shown to be faster with leftovers, then you can just rip the second Dragon Claw, get the KO. You could use Beat Up over Focus Punch, which will still punish Blissey. You won't need Substitute to safely get your Focus Punch off. You also won't need to have any attack investment, and you can instead opt to go for a minus attack nature to preserve your defensive stats. Now, sometimes Charizard wants to take more damage so that it gets to Blaze range faster. So you'll have to navigate that for your particular Charizard build. But generally, I do think it's nice to not have a minus defense or special defense nature. So Beat Up can help you out with that. Unfortunately, you don't have Focus Punch to hit something like a Tyranitar or a Snorlax, which would be really nice. But depending on your team composition, you might be able to afford foregoing the Focus Punch. And also, sometimes it's hard to get the Focus Punch off on them if your opponent is not letting you get behind your substitute. Toxic could take the place of Focus Punch to punish Fire Resist for switching in. So, for example, if you do not want to run like HP Ice or Dragon Claw, then the Dragon types are really tough for Charizard to deal with, but you could get behind a substitute, lure them in, and go for a Toxic. Similarly, you could do this, you could do the same thing to water types as well, like Swampert or Milotic or Suicune, if you don't want to run HP Grass for Swampert especially. Although each of them either has access to Refresh or Rest. Of course, most Pokemon have access to Rest, but Suicune is a very avid Rest user. It's getting a lot of sleep, I guess. Would be nice to be Suicune. In any case, Blast Burn is another option. Blast Burn is basically Fire-type Hyper Beam, so you will have to recharge the turn after, but there is kind of a use case for it. If you are in Blaze range with a Bataya Berry boost, You were dealing minimum 50% to the entire metagame, which would include Blissey and all the water types. So you are 2-hit KOing pretty much everything. Now, are you going to get 2 blast burns off? Probably not. But if anything is chipped to 50%, you're just going to straight up kill it with blast burn. You also could run... sorry, not run, but you also could just one-shot whatever's in front of you if it's not something that resists fire or has a ridiculous special defense stat like Blissey. It's a little bit cheesy, but it can definitely work in an endgame to remove a key threat. And then if you stack a Sunny Day boost on top of that, then you may just completely fry the tier. Although fitting Sunny Day and Blast Burn on the same set can be a little bit challenging because you would like to have substitute. You would still like to have another fire move that you could click, like Flamethrower at the very least, and then you also might want to have a coverage move. So a little bit of 4 move slot syndrome in a sense. Although I don't necessarily like the idea of 4 move slot syndrome. If a Pokemon has more than 4 good possible moves that it could use, then I think that's a good thing. Now, granted, I guess people say, well, it's because the Pokemon needs more than 4 moves to cover all the options that it's supposed to, but, like, if a Pokemon covers all the options that it should ever encounter, then that Pokemon's name is Zygarde. But, I mean, I digress. I think that Charizard's got some great options, and I'm going to show you sort of what I decided on. This is a Charizard that's keeping it real simple. I'm going for max speed Charizard because I like being faster than all the other base 100s. Because basically Charizard can 1 or 2-hit KO all of them with the combination of Fire Blast and Dragon Claw. You could even go for a much more potent version of this by opting for Hidden Power Ice. You wouldn't have to have Dragon Claw anymore, and you were basically threatening a 1-hit KO on all the base 100s, which is, well, except for Charizard, but this is that's phenomenal. But I still like having HP Grass to hit Swampert. If you have other ways to handle Swampert on your team, then you can certainly opt to go in for HP Ice, and then you free up a move slot for something like Substitute or Toxic, or, I mean, basically whatever you want. You could even run something crazy like Brick Break to try to 2-hit KO Tyranitar. Although I don't know if I would suggest that per se. And then we have Beat Up as our last option, just so that we can hit Blissey. The team that I'm going to use is not particularly Blissey weak, so we don't need Charizard to land the Beat Up very often, but it's enough to force Blissey out, because Blissey otherwise could be really annoying. Like, if it wants to stay in and Calm Mind against the Charizard, then we can at least say, no, you're not going to do that in front of my guy here. So yeah, that's the idea here. I think max speed Charizard is a little bit slept on. In fact, I think a lot of the base 100s going max speed is a little bit slept on. A lot of people are cheating their speed stat and saying, well, if I can get just a little bit more bulk or a little bit more attack, then. But yeah, we're opting for this. And then note, I have a low attack IV here for Hidden Power Grass. If you opt to run Focus Punch instead of Beat Up for this particular Charizard, which I think is a valid option, particularly if you want to be able to hit Snorlax and Tyranitar harder on the switch in. Just note that if you copy this set, you will want to adjust your attack IVs so that you don't have a really, really weak Focus Punch. Yeah, and I want to note here that we're still going to 2-hit KO all the Salamence sets with Dragon Claw. I think the Dragon Dance set has like a very small chance to survive if I basically like min roll twice. But virtually a 2-hit KO on all of them. And then Hidden Power Ice is only, like I said, 50% to Oko, the Dragon Dance Salamence set, if Zard is timid. If you are modest, then you will outspeed that set and kill it, so that's kind of nice. But yeah, I sort of digress. Let's move on to the team structure, and some of you probably recognize this team. I didn't necessarily want to build another Charizard team, and I didn't think enough people have watched my Metacham video, so I'm going to recycle this team, although I did make some edits to it. We have a slightly different Metacham set than what I showed in my even in my Metacham video, so you can consider this a little bit of a follow-up to that. We also have Regice on the team, who I believe I used a different Regice team for my Regice video, but we're seeing him back. He's kind of cool. I guess back. It's genderless. In any case, Charizard fits really nicely onto offense teams, and I like this sort of mixed offense structure. I think it's really cool. The team's called Metacham Party 4. That's because of the inspiration for this team, which I will show you on the next slide, but let's explain it a little bit. We have now we've always had a lead 4 attacks Metacham to pressure Tyranitar and Zapdos. We have the option to trade into Skarmory, Metagross, and Suicune if we want to. But I would generally suggest allowing Metacham to stay healthy unless you are guaranteed to get crazy damage off. And I say trade into Skarmory because if it has Drill Peck, then you're not going to win the 1v1. If it doesn't have Drill Peck, though, you can Focus Punch, and Focus Punch plus Brick Break should get the KO. So that's kind of nice. We have a defensive Swampert and Agility Metagross to punish the Rock Spam. I think Swampert plus Metagross is a very solid Rock Resist core, and we also have Metacham to potentially take a Rock Slide as well, although it's not very sturdy. It can take 1 or 2 Rock-type moves, but not much more than that. And yeah, I think that the standard defensive Swampert still has really good firepower with Hydro Pump, so it's not very passive either, which is really nice, which is why Swampert's one of the best Pokemon in the tier. And then Metagross with Agility can act as a sort of win condition if we need it. And then Regice is probably the most interesting member of the team. It's a offensive and faster pace check to Bulky Waters. And that's mostly due to Explosion. There are some times when Blissey can get stalled out, particularly when it's facing another special wall like Snorlax. But Regice can, or like a Calm Mind boosting Suicune, but Regice can go for the Explosion to generate some more momentum. And when you have Pokemon like Metacham and Charizard on this team who are such strong revenge killers, it is really nice to have an Explosion Mon. In fact, if you would like, I have tried another version of this team that replaces the Tyranitar with Claydol, and it kind of takes more of a boom spam archetype. You do lose out on the sand, which is not great, because I think sand really helps for Metacham and Charizard. For getting the particular rolls that they need. It's also nice to actually keep Charizard's HP low when it's in Blaze range. If you have leftovers on your Charizard and you heal out of Blaze range, then you might not get the one-shot kill on something that you otherwise would like. So, in fact, Charizard is one of the rare exceptions to non-sand immune Pokemon that actually kind of prefers to be in Sandstorm. Now, granted, if you're running a Pataya Berry instead of leftovers, then that is absolutely not true, and you would much prefer to change that. But, ooh, maybe you could do like a Weather Clear with Claydol in the Tyranitar slot if you want to try that. That could be interesting. Oh well, something to test out for another time. But yeah, this team is inspired by a team called Metacham Party 4 by a user called Lennoxaguire. I don't know. Guire is the best I got. And this is their version of the team using pretty standard sets all across the board. I made some slight changes to suit my needs, but as you see, they actually have the Charizard set that I wanted to use just natively here, which is kind of cool. So maybe they were thinking the same thing that I was with what I wanted Charizard to do. Um, but yeah, no, you should definitely tailor the coverage moves to your team though. This team obviously it would like to have something to hit Swampert for super effective, so that's why you want to run the HP grass, and then Dragon Claw is really nice to lower the Salamence so that something like a Tyranitar or Swampert or Metagross can come in and finish it off. I guess Swampert kind of beats it anyway with Ice Beam. But all right. That does it for the presentation portion. We're going to go into the battles. Let me get the scene set. I remembered to change the featured mon set there. And then I'm going to do something a little interesting with the music here. I just needed to shout out this game because it's a little bit underrated. I don't hear a lot of people talking about it anymore, but I want to play some music from it. But it's not great for looping, so we're just going to let autoplay decide what the song is after. This is the boss Pokemon music from Pokemon Ranger, which I feel like a lot of people do not talk about original Pokemon Ranger as much as they should. I think it's a really cool spin-off game. And yes, I prefer Guardian Signs. I think Guardian Signs is the best. Shadows of Almia is kind of cool as well, but let's respect the original, the OG, a little bit. That Charizard boss fight was a tough one for me as a kid, by the way. All right, let's get into the first battle here against Quirtus, who has a lead Blaziken. So cool. I go for Brick Break, put it into Blaze range, and then die. That's not so cool. That reveals to not have leftovers. It might have a Pinch Berry, and I might have just lucked out on not putting it in range to get its Pinch Berry off. That would have been really, really awful. But Charizard can come in. I'm definitely faster. Fire Blast, despite being resisted, will still get the KO on Blaziken if it chooses to stay in. But I catch a Starmie coming in. All right. I did see what you guys said on my Blues Energy video, is that the Charizard was HP Ice, not HP Grass. I'll say, I did not know that. I don't stream snipe Blues Energy. I probably should watch his streams because he's a really good player and I want to hear more of his thought process in a game. But yeah, I didn't know that he didn't have Hidden Power Grass, so my bad, guys. I mean, I probably should have still played the Starmie more aggressively against the Charizard anyway, but yeah, I think I hope I can be forgiven a little bit for trying to play a little cautious, if not exactly knowing the team. But I do recognize that, yeah, even if it had HP Grass, I could have still made some better plays with the Starmie. Fair enough. I hear you guys on that one. But I'm not going to stay in because Starmie's almost always faster than Charizard, even when Charizard's at max speed. And I have Regice, who's a great Starmie switch. We can kill back with Thunderbolt there, which is really cool. And then Tyranitar will come in. No, we had Pokemon Mansion last video. Boo. Sure, let's do the SSN. This is very unfitting for a hype Pokemon like Charizard, but whatever. Still a banger. We are defensive Swampert, so we don't do a lot to Skarmory on switch-in, but Hydro Pump is still a really good click. And my opponent clicks Toxic as I go to Charizard. So here's my philosophy on this. I've probably said this before, but generally speaking, Skarmory versus a team of that has unrevealed Pokemon, particularly an offense team that has unrevealed Pokemon, the first move it should click should pretty much always be Spikes. Yes, I understand getting a Toxic off on a potential Regice or stay in with Swampert would be really nice, and you could beat down those two to get extra Spikes. but you never know if a team has a Magneton. Now, granted, I don't know if I would pair Charizard with Magneton because Charizard loves to come in on Skarmory. It's like one of its favorite entry points. So I don't think you really need a Magneton, but the point still stands that Charizard is going to come in and it's going to stop Skarmory from being able to set up spikes. So that delays my opponent's game plan here. And in fact, my opponent will just opt to stay in and take the Fire Blast, which I cannot agree with at all. It might be, again, it might be hard to switch in to Charizard. Like, even switching the Salamence in, which I would not have predicted and went for a Dragon Claw on it. But that Dragon Claw did a lot of damage. That is the power of hitting into a... I think this is a banded Salamence, so... Yeah, it has, like, no bulk or anything, so... That was awesome. But switching into a Fire Blast can be very dubious because if Charizard burns you, like, you are completely screwed. But in any case, this is banded. It's locked into Hidden Power Flying, so I can go to Metagross, who should take Hidden Power Flying very nicely. I can Agility, and basically the game is over. It's really nice that Charizard can facilitate some of this, like for Metagross in particular. Metagross's toughest matchups are against the Steel types, and if Charizard can Fire Blast and remove them, like Skarmory and Jirachi, then you're in a really nice spot. We did miss one Meteor Mash against Mence, but we're fine. I go for Meteor Mash here, and this is actually a Tyranitar that is bulky enough to live it, which that kind of sucks. But I can go to my own Tyranitar, who can just crunch. Yes, because I'm a Pursuitar on this team. But Blaziken's showing off its power. If you want to see more about Blaziken, you can check out my video on it. I think it's a really cool Pokemon. It does reveal to have HP Grass, or, I mean, it's either that or it's super bluffing. But I'm playing around getting crit or having any nastiness happen to me. So I recognize that because this has no leftovers, it's going to die to Sandstorm. And as long as I just play safely there, I can win this game guaranteed. In fact, it looked like it was not a Pinch Berry. It was probably Lumberry, which makes sense for Elite Blaziken. I think that is a standard set. But important to note, if it was a Pinch Berry, possibly my Metachamp could have gotten a high enough roll to put it into its Pinch Berry range, which would have been really nasty depending on its coverage. Now, Charizard still would have walled the crap out of this, but if it had like Rock Slide, for example, that could have been really tough. Or even Thunder Punch. Next game here, I thought that it... Okay, I don't know how my tabs work. I'm sorry I was talking crap on SSN. This is a banger. Alright, lead Milotic is almost always Hypnosis, and I was willing to roll the dice and potentially have my Metacham go to sleep, but I think that was ultimately... It was kind of ultimately fine if I did, because I could have went... actually, I don't know. Maybe I needed Metacham to not be asleep. In any case, the Milotic misses, and I go for a Focus Punch and smash it. I do think that that's a little bit of a bold move from my opponent, because if I was Lumberry Metacham, then it wouldn't have mattered if the Hypnosis hit or not. I would have still got the 2-hit KO there, but just fortunate that it didn't happen that way. Celebi will come in Swords Dance. I'm going to Shadow Ball it for its troubles, and now it's probably going to Baton Pass to something. I go for Shadow Ball. Oh, no, sorry. I actually go for Brick Break. Brick Break, I wasn't sure what exactly was coming in. I think maybe I was thinking a Swampert might come in. So I just wanted to get some damage on it, and it, in fact, is a Gyarados, who is really scary. I'll go to Tyranitar, who should be threatening to Rock Slide, even though I don't have it. So the Gyarados has to kill me. It does. And then I can go to Regice, who should live an Earthquake and then get the kill back with Thunderbolt. My opponent goes for Double Edge, but I lived that as well, which is really nice. I think that was a Jolly Gyarados to not get that kill. Although I'm not sure. But yeah, that was interesting. If my opponent hard read that I was a Pursuit Tyranitar and went for a DD again, I think I just straight up lost the game. Because I did not have a move to hit this Gyarados. I don't have Roar on this Tyranitar. In any case, we can sack the Regice off, and now we're into a Charizard. I noticed this guy had 2 water types, and both of them are dead. And Magneton, Celebi, Metagross comes in. It dives to a Fire Blast. Heracross comes in. Oh my god. This is a very Charizard weak team. I mean, granted, you do have Milotic and Gyarados, but it's so scary to go with the lead Milotic. What happens if you get boomed turn 1 by Metagross or something? Then you're going to have something like this where the Charizard comes in and claims basically 3 kills. Possibly could have been 4 if I got a nice roll on Heracross. But yeah, that was devastation by Charizard, to put it lightly. Let's go on to the next game here. I'm going to reorder my tabs real quick. There we go. And yeah, Metacham lead into Tyranitar. So many people will stay in with the Tyranitar, you will not believe it. I don't know why. It's really hard to predict what the opponent's going to go to with the Metacham. Like here, if I click Shadow Ball on the Starmie coming in turn 1, I would have killed it. But how am I supposed to predict Starmie to be the switch in? It could be Salamence, it could be Zapdos, it could be a lot of things. Generally, if I do go for the prediction, because I don't hate the idea of going for it, because the Tyranitar should switch out, and you should live an Earthquake if they go for that. And because they don't know if you're Lumberry, it's not to their advantage to go for Thunder Wave. But in any case, or you might be Substitute as well. If I do predict, I generally go for Rock Slide, and that is really nice because if it hits a Salamence, especially one that's slower than Metacham, you can absolutely beanbag it. Although, I don't think I'm going to be faster than any Salamence with this particular Metacham set. I might Speed Tie. I actually have a little bit less speed investment so that I can run some HP investment. Kind of interesting. I'm actually just going to opt to stay in and take my kill on whatever my opponent will let me have. I was willing to trade for the Starmie. I would have lived a Hydro Pump. Although my opponent even has Surf, so I would have been better. But I'll take the Zapdos as well. Regice is really good into both Zapdos and Starmie. It can be a little bit tough if it has to handle both at the same time, but eliminating one frees up the Regice to do a lot more. Now I have the option to Boom to remove the Skarmory. I'll go for Earthquake onto Tyranitar, possibly catching Starmie switching in, but instead we'll see Skarmory, which is fine because I have a pretty free entry to Charizard, who can go for an HP Grass. I guess I was trying to catch the Starmie coming in, force it to recover so that I can get a free entry to Regice. But instead I catch a Blissey, who takes absolutely nothing from that. But I can reveal Beat Up here. If my opponent switches, they'd have to switch like pretty much to Starmie to get much out of this. And I was predicting the Starmie to want to switch in anyway, so I had options. I could have went to Regice pretty easily, but instead just Beat Up to hit the Blissey to stop it from being able to Calm Mind or punish it if it tries to go for an attack. I'll take a Thunderbolt pretty well, and they actually instead go for Ice Beam. Now, Fire Blast is threatening to KO the Blissey if it doesn't choose to exactly heal. So I can go for that and force the Starmie to have to recover. Swampert is relatively free because I will not get Thunder Waved, and my Earthquake is doing a significant enough damage that I can handle it. I predict the Skarmory to want to come in, so I Hydro Pump. Maybe a little bit unnecessary, but kind of a cool swag play. The Regice is in. I can just go for an Ice Beam here. Scouting the Protect. and then Starmie will come in and I will explode on that. So explosion was really nice because it would catch the Starmie or the Blissey. Yeah, Thunderbolt would have technically been better because I could have killed the Starmie and then blown up on something else. But I liked having the option to get the kill on Blissey if that switched in as well. And I kind of figured that my opponent would switch the Skarmory out, not wanting to take extra damage for Swampert to potentially become a win condition. Now I'll go to Tyranitar against my opponent's Tyranitar. It was going to threaten the Blissey out and possibly could have earned me a kill with Fire Blast onto the Skarmory. Doesn't quite work out for me, but I get put into Torrent range by the Tyranitar, so I can go for Hydro Pumps here. I am slower than Skarmory, so I allow it to get a Toxic off on me, and I miss my Pump, which would have killed the Skarmory. I'll stay in and go for another Pump. Just Pump again. I don't quite kill the Blissey, even though I'm in Torrent range, but I am faster, so I do get the kill. And I go for Hydro Pump there because I didn't want Skarmory to come back in on an Earthquake. It probably would have been less risky and maybe a better overall move if I just would have clicked Earthquake to kill the Blissey. It would have avoided the situation where I miss and then I have to clean up with Metagross on the back end. Although this is setting up pretty well for Metagross to win the game anyway. So Metagross can come in now. I'll click a Meteor Mash. I might get a Raise, which would basically end the Skarmory's life. I'll go for another Meteor Mash because there's not much that the Skarmory can do. Goes for Toxic, I guess hoping that I would choke by going to Charizard, but I didn't see any reason to switch there. All of my Pokemon deal really well with Skarmory if that get roared out to them. Here comes Swampert. I could probably have just Earthquaked again on this Protect, because Charizard, it should be in range for Charizard to kill with HP Grass, but it was already in range, so it kind of didn't really matter. I guess it would have been better if... I mean, really my opponent didn't have much to do there. My opponent gets fully paralyzed here, which allows me to get another hidden power off. Which puts them low enough now for my Tyranitar to get the win here. I go for Crunch, assuming that that would kill. And it did not, so it's kind of scary. It's actually a Choice Banded Tyranitar, as revealed kind of by that damage. Probably should have known that earlier, given that it didn't have leftovers and it didn't... Well, I guess I couldn't have known that necessarily until I attacked it with my Charizard. So yeah, actually maybe my opponent could have won there. But I have HP Grass on my Tyranitar, so I should probably have just clicked that. Yeah, I don't know. Interesting. I guess it didn't really matter all that much. In any case, we'll go on to the next game here. Metacham versus the Tyranitar. We'll see if my opponent wants to stay in. They don't, but I think... No, I don't predict my opponent to switch out. Unfortunate. If you crit the Rock Slide, you kill the Salamence, which is... I mean, that's great. Reveals to be a mixed Mence, which can be a little bit of a problem. But... we're ultimately fine with Swampert. We can just protect, get a little bit of HP back, and then Reggie should come in pretty well. I get crit with the Dragon Claw, which is not good, but I should live a Fire Blast or a Dragon Claw, so I can go for Thunder Wave. Pretty free there. People don't want to switch their ground types into Regice is something I've kind of noticed. Makes sense because the stab Ice Beam can be pretty tough for them. This is a substitute, probably Calm Mind Jirachi, so that will wall my Regice, but I know that substitute Calm Mind Jirachi does not run HP Grass, so I can go to Swampert, but I get crit with Psychic, so I can't even break the sub. That's terrible. I can take a Fire Punch here. If I got burned, that would have been fine because I'm Lumberry, but I have to sack the Metagross here, essentially. Except I opt to save my Metagross and go to Tyranitar. Could have been really bad if my opponent predicted that and went for a substitute, but I should wall Psi-Fire Jirachi pretty well anyway, and it fearing a Earthquake will switch out, but I instead go for a Fire Blast, which puts Salamence kind of low. I'll go to Charizard, who should take a Brick Break pretty well. And then Charizard is revealed to be faster, so I can go for Dragon Claw, and I get the kill on Salamence. So there's the argument there for Dragon Claw. Now I have HP Grass as an option to click into Tyranitar or Starmie. I go to Regice here, who takes 29 from Hydro Pump. It's a roll for Starmie to kill, and I will opt to play into that roll. I get my Thunderbolt off, don't quite kill the Starmie, but Tyranitar can come in and checkmate it because I have Pursuit. My opponent will stay in and click Hydro Pump, which I am EV'd to live. And by that I mean I have max HP investment. Celebi does not have a great move to hit Charizard here. Could have went for Psychic, but that would have been, I mean, wouldn't have gotten him out of this situation, per se. Skarmory goes down with no Spike Up, which is really nice. This team has no Spinner, so you have to play pretty aggressive around the Skarmory. I'll go to Tyranitar, threaten a Brick Break onto the opposing Tyranitar. So my opponent has to kill it. Now I can go to Metacham, who is EV to live a +1 Earthquake. So I can go for a Brick Break. I get a lot of damage on the Jirachi, but not quite enough to get the KO. So I'll have to switch to Metagross, who takes a Psychic. My opponent can kill me with Fire Punch, so I will switch to Charizard, who takes the Psychic instead, but goes down to Blaze range, which is really nice because Fire Blast is just going to OHKO a Celebi at this stage. Tyranitar can come in. I will go to Metagross, who threatens to just beat the Tyranitar if it doesn't go for the kill on me. And I will go for Explosion. And I don't get the kill on Tyranitar, so I have to go to Metacham, and I have to prove to everybody here that I do live in Earthquake. Yeah, I'm a mad scientist with my EVs here, as you can see here. I wish I showed this Metacham set off in my Metacham video, but that's why we recycle teams every now and then. And yeah, like that I think more was a showcase of Metacham being awesome, but Charizard is really cool as well. Getting into Blaze range in the end game, if you outspeed everything, it can be very, very difficult for your opponent to find an in. They have to pray for a Fire Blast miss a lot of the time. So, yeah, I'm really happy with how the Charizard Metacham combo worked there. And now, finally, we will go into this one here. I think this is the highest rate. Well, this is the highest rated replay that I saved. I think I actually peaked at about 1660 with this team. This is a really cool team. It's one of my favorites that I've got to use so far. Could I get to 1700 with this team? I think so, but I'll have to stop tilting and stop playing like really bad. In any case, lead Metagross goes for Meteor Mash, misses my Swampert, and then reveals Kingdra, which is very, very strange. But Leftovers Kingdra is basically Regice food because I can get a Thunder Wave off on it and it can not do any damage to Regice. I'll go back up to full with Regice as Swampert comes in. My opponent kind of goes for an aggressive switch to Charizard, who gets knocked down to 50%. It reveals to be a Papaya Berry Charizard, so we're getting to see a little bit of what the other Charizard sets maybe have to offer. Although this is still technically under the same umbrella as my set. But because it has Papaya Berry, that means it doesn't have leftovers, so I can set Sandstorm and put this on a timer. Tyranitar should pretty easily live a Fire Blast, so that was fine if I took it, but I dodge it, which is also nice. Now I can go to my own Charizard, I will take the Fire Blast on the chin to put myself into Blaze range, and I should be faster than the opposing Charizard. I'll go for Dragon Claw as a mid-ground, and I catch Kingdra, which is like, that's Christmas morning right there. Take the kill on Kingdra. Now we don't have to worry about Sand getting eliminated unless there's another Pokemon that can clear the weather here. Let's actually go back a turn here on this Zapdos coming in. I want you to pay attention to the Sandstorm damage. So let's go here. I'm highlighting it. The opposing Farok, which is Zapdos, is buffeted by the Sandstorm, and then my Charizard is buffeted by the Sandstorm. And then my Charizard heals with its leftovers, and then Zapdos does. So this will tell you who is faster here. And I know I'm max speed Charizard, and Zapdos has the same speed stat. So at best, Zapdos can speed time me. But because it took Sandstorm damage first, that tells me that this is a max speed Zapdos right here. So that means that I only have a 50-50 to get my Fire Blast off. Now, I think Blaze boosted Fire Blast on a no-bulk Zapdos might be able to kill. Let me actually check that calc. We are Charizard. Basically the special attacker set, but we're timid. Max attack IVs. Let's say we're down at 10% for Blaze range. Zapdos. I know this is really riveting that you can't even see me calcing here. But we have a chance to kill. It is a 25% chance to outright get the kill, but we also have Sandstorm damage, which basically adds another 50% or so. So we're very likely to get a kill with Zapdos if we opt to stay in and go for Fire Blast, but there's mischance and there's the chance that I lose the speed tie, and I feel like I'm up, so I don't really need to risk this. So I'm going to switch the Charizard out to Regice. This is important. You want to make plays that keep your opponent from getting back into the game, and Regice stops all progress there. Then this is another play here. I go for Thunderbolt because I recognize that the most dangerous Pokemon that can come in with a substitute is Metagross. If Swampert comes in, I can just trade some HP on the Regice to eliminate the substitute with Ice Beam. And unless it's like pretty much exactly Endeavor Swampert, then I'm not really that punished for doing it. I mean, I guess it could be Focus Punch Swampert, which would probably kill my Regice, but like I'm willing to sack that. Metagross behind a substitute could be really dangerous, especially if it's agility. So I'm not going to allow that to happen. I'll switch to Swampert, who should deal with all Metagross sets unless they go for Boom. But I'm also fine to just let the Swampert get boomed for the whole Metagross. That's fine with me. Charizard comes in as the sack. If I missed Hydro Pump, I could have clicked Protect, and it would have died to Sandstorm, and I would have taken 0 damage. So that was fine by me. Unless it's somehow Rest as on there, but if it's Rest, that's ultimately fine with me. So I also recognize that because this is a max speed Zapdos, as I found out from earlier, that it should not be able to kill me with Hidden Power Grass. So I can just trade the Ice Beam there. My opponent has the worst possible situation where they go for Substitute, lose 25% health, and then Swampert's Ice Beam is enough to kill after Sandstorm damage. So in comes Dugtrio, which is, yeah, it makes sense on this kind of roster. It could still be a Weather Clear Dugtrio, but obviously it has to go for attacking moves into my Swampert. I can just sack the Swampert off there, and in comes Charizard, who is threatening to just win the game. My opponent says my team is sick, which, yeah, it's pretty sick, I'll admit. I predict Swampert to come in and go for HP Grass, but it doesn't really matter, because if Metagross came in, I just had to hit a Fire Blast to beat it. That would have been okay. Here I go to Metagross, which is low-key potentially a throw. I probably should have went to Tyranitar because Metagross can take an Earthquake, which means that I have the opportunity to OHKO the Dugtrio back with Earthquake. Um, Whereas Tyranitar is basically not going to be able to do anything the rest of this game because it's too slow to handle the Metagross. But because my opponent locks into Earthquake, I can go to Charizard. They are obviously a banded Dugtrio. I have had one game, actually, where somebody Dug trapped, I think either my Metagross or my Tyranitar, killed it with Earthquake. So then I went to Charizard to punish it, and then they clicked Rock Slide. And I was like, okay, buddy, you can have this. That sucks. But Charizard's in, it just has to hit one more Fire Blast and we win the game. So that is really nice. Potentially could have been bad if I missed, because if the Metagross was exactly Agility, then it could have been bad. It could also have been Choice Band, and I think if it hits all of its Meteor Mashes, it can kill all of my remaining Pokemon. So that could have also been bad, but I mean, 80% chance to win the game, basically, for me. And then there's like also the like strange cases where my opponent could miss the Meteor Mash. So I'll take that any day. And then yeah, Charizard's really nice. Now, keep that in mind though. If Charizard missed that Fire Blast, we probably just lost. And there's maybe where the argument for Flamethrower is. I definitely get it, but Charizard getting the one-shot kill on Skarmory all the time with Fire Blast, that is hugely important in my opinion. Yeah, so if I check this out on the calculator, Fire Blast, if we are not in Blaze range, actually, if we're not modest, we are not guaranteed to OHKO the Skarm. Take that, so keep that in mind. Now we're favored. We're still favored, 62% of the time. And if the Skarmory is running anything less than max special defense, then this goes higher for us. So like these taunt Skarms that are speed creeping each other, they might put themselves down to like a 75% chance to get OHKO'd by Fire Blast, but that just means that Flamethrower is not even close. Yeah, it never gets the kill unless you burn or crit. So yeah, that's all like really important stuff for Charizard there. I think it's really cool because if you can position it well, put it down into Blaze range at the right point of the game, it can simply just win outright. So that's really, really awesome. And I think that Charizard deserves a lot of love for that. I think it is a pretty well-respected Pokemon now. It was definitely under-respected earlier in this generation's lifetime, but we've since rectified that. So that's really awesome. So yeah, go out there, have some fun with some Charizard offense teams. I think it is genuinely one of the most fun Pokemon to play with in the tier.